Good day, mate. I'm just trying to be
Isn't it weird
Australian.
that,
It's democratic, It's election day. We should be embracing our specific linguistic behaviours.
well, if anything, that's it. Isn't that a colonial expression, Nick?
Good day,
Shouldn't you be
mate.
saying womanjika?
Okay, maybe I've been shown up, but
How about
I
that?
refuse to take that
Yeah.
from the person who voted no for the referendum. So thank you very much. I won't have it.
And and an international postal vote at that as well,
Yeah,
by the
you
way.
put in so much effort as well. Like, so much effort for a cause that was already, to be honest, in an advantageous position. You still made the
Yeah.
effort to send in your no vote from Vietnam.
I just wanted my voice heard. I wanted my voice heard.
Oh, fuck, it's depressing. It's depressing.
It's not going to pass, is
It's
it?
not going to pass. I don't understand why it's
No.
so controversial.
People are afraid. I don't know. People are scared to lose their traditions. They're scared to lose the Australia that has made them feel so comfortable, and they're misinformed and
Yeah.
they're ignorant and they're not ready to do the work, I guess.
That is surprisingly intelligent of you. Like, for a minute into this podcast, that is not our typical style. We're normally talking about shit here. We're literal, like,
Oh,
feces. But that was a
well,
good answer.
fuck. I don't know what's going on because this is probably the closest we've ever recorded, or for me, in terms of waking up time to hitting record.
Oh, wow.
Because I've had a bit of a rough I had a bit of a rough sleep last night. I was kept having dreams that bugs were eating my face,
Oh.
which they very might will they could well be eating my face. It might
we
not be a
lost
dream.
we lost a little bit of the fluency there that you had at the top. We did hit some some roadworks there in your expression, but I'm glad we made it through.
I okay. Well, I don't really understand what you're saying. Is
You
that
you
about my
started
the way I
stumbling
delivered
and
that?
fumbling in a way that
Ah,
was,
fuck.
yeah.
I never realized that I'm like stumbling in the moment. I only realized when I listened back to the episodes, which is why I chose to try and not to
And I
go
cut a
and do it
lot of
again.
it out. So if you're still hearing
Yeah.
it in the edit, that means that there was nothing I can do to get around it.
Um,
You were
what was I
you were
saying?
sleeping poorly.
Just saying I had a rough night's sleep, and so I woke up at like 6 a.m. But there's a 6 hour time difference for
Yeah.
those listening between Nick and I. So Nick's in the late afternoon at this stage, and I'm in the
Mm.
kind of mid morning. And yeah, so I woke up at 6. I'd had one of those, I'm on my phone a little bit. I'm doom
Tossy turny.
scrolling for a
Yeah.
while. And then I'm like, you know what? I could probably get another half an hour to an hour in here. And I just kind of drifted off. And it's Saturday morning. I'm in sunny Vietnam. Why the fuck not? Should I have a lie in? And then it was like 9:20 when Lauren woke me up.
9:20 is like
So
when my standard get out of bed time is. So you're actually talking about my normal day.
that's interesting because I guess that I consider that a lazy lion now.
So you're in like a 7 a.m. wake up normally, or what? What are we talking here?
Yeah. Yeah, seven
Even
till
on
seven
even
till eight.
overseas.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, because we're jumping around time zones so much, I just feel like it's yeah, I don't know what's happening with our body clocks. We don't necessarily have a schedule or a job, a 9 to 5 job to wake up to
Mm.
or for. But I don't know. That's just kind of been our routine, I guess, most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a few months in, if you're still getting up between 7 and 8, that's pretty diligent, really.
Yeah. It's also it's little bit. It felt a little bit chaotic, not only because I woke up a bit later than I wanted to, but also we have a serviced apartment here in Phu Quoc, and the housekeeping comes and makes your room every day and gives you fresh towels and fresh linen and everything.
Mm.
And they usually come around 9:30, but this time they came around like just as we were about to hit record,
Mm.
and I had to, for the second time, I've had to put up they just went AWOL. I don't know where they are,
Are
but they're
they
going to
in the
come back.
room?
No, they're outside. I can see they're cleaning other rooms, but they're
Oh,
going to come back at some point during this pod. So I've had to
oh,
put the do not disturb sign on the door,
oh.
um, out of respect for you, mate.
Thank you.
And I just feel like that's a little harsh. Like I was just saying to Laura, like the do not. I wish it just said, if it's okay, can you please come back later? I love you.
Yeah.
I just think that
I'll
please do
pay
not
you
disturb is
$15. Yeah.
it's just too much for. Maybe I could make my own please do not disturb signs that are a little bit more like beta.
And it's not,
Like,
it's like, disturb is so harsh as well. Like that's
disturb me.
that's implying that what they do would be like unappreciated or like really disruptive.
Yep.
But really you just mean like, now's not convenient for me, but I'd love if we could hang later. Something like that.
That's what I want. Yeah, something a little bit more like apologetic.
Yeah. It's not you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me. Yeah, it's my fault. I have a very important podcast to attend to.
But yeah, internationally renowned podcast, yes.
Oh yeah.
Just backtracking to the voice for a second, I read someone's post somewhere calling tradition just peer pressure from ghosts, and that that
That's
really
good.
stuck with me. But it
That's
does
very
feel a
good.
bit like that. Like it shouldn't be this hard to
It's
do a very innocuous and yet meaningful step for people, and yet it's not going to pass.
Well, yeah, it's fear of change clearly, which is fear of change is something. Embracing change is something often associated with younger thinking, and I think that this is a generational. It seems to be a generational issue and divide in many ways, and
and
I
and
feel
and
like
to support what you're just saying, generational in like a problem as well. Like this has been a problem in terms of how Australia has dealt with Indigenous people for generations. Like
right.
it's a generational issue in terms of the divide and the vote, but it's a generational issue in terms of this has been hundreds of years of mistreatment, and it should be so obvious that like a non-binding advisory board is not gonna like strip the rights of everyone else or interfere with the democratic process, and yet somehow that's been the image.
Yeah, it just feels like it's so wet, it's so soft anyway that I don't even I don't understand, the specific politics of it, but I just feel like if this wasn't a referendum, they could have just done it and no one would have really cared.
I think that's a very interesting point because I mean, speaking as a survivor of the plebiscite with the gay marriage vote, where it's like, well, we're not just going to decide things. This is a moral question in which all of Australia needs to have its say. It's like, fucking no. Why was it a moral
Just
problem?
do it.
Just do it.
Yeah,
I don't
just do
know.
it.
I mean, to be fair, I believe legally the referendum stuff uh, is required because you're changing. It's a proposal to change the constitution, and changing the constitution might have a requirement. I'm throwing my mind back to the old law days. It might be the
Yeah.
case that if you're proposing to change the constitution, it needs to be via referendum. So that might be the reason. But I don't know. It just seems like it should be so much. As a country, Australia should be so much further along in terms of embracing something so simple that would be so meaningfully impactful. And yet, when I speak to everyone over here, like in New Zealand, they're like, "Wow!" So there's like this big debate about this issue of having like Indigenous people get a say, and I'm like, yep, it's sort of a hot button topic. And they're like, well, it'll be good when it comes through. I'm like, oh no, it's not passing. No, no, this won't succeed.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
New
yeah.
Zealanders are like, right.
Yeah. I just think, if it is a generational issue, and I don't have any statistics to back it up, it's just complete gut intuition that it does feel like maybe this is one of the last big things that the older generations, boomers and so on, might have an effect on. Because I feel like change is coming from the youth in Australia as well.
Yep.
I'm sure that there's a lot of, younger conservative traditional minds out there as well, but
And to be
it
fair, older
feels
liberal
like,
types. But yes.
and it feels like this is maybe the last kind of thing that they will meaningfully affect in terms of culture in Australia, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, when I think about getting older, I think intrinsic in my understanding of my life and my role is the idea that there are people coming up after us, right? And that influences things like the way you want to generate energy, because the consequences of coal production in mines and that kind of thing don't necessarily affect my lives, but affect the lives of people to come. And I think intrinsically that there's part of your social obligation as a human being in a society is understanding that at a certain point there are other people coming up after you. And if you are thinking about making these kind of decisions, I think it's a really futile effort if it feels like generationally, if you can look at the stats and the numbers and go, well, young people want this. And then we know that at some point there will be a majority of young people and subsequent generations who will have the numbers in order to pass a thing. It feels so like snotty to be planting your head in the sand, or to like put your foot down and say, no, not while I'm around, not yet, just wait. And I guess I hope that as I get older, I have the willingness to be flexible about that stuff and to embrace the future that my kids want, even if it doesn't necessarily align with what I expected or what I grew up with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm getting at?
I absolutely do. I think about this all the time. It's an open-mindedness and a willingness to accept that things will, like you said, change and not maybe turn out the way you expected, or even maybe the way you hoped. But it's a willingness to be flexible and like an adaptation to society and culture. It's like these like stand-up comedians that I watch all the time. You can say that oh, I can't use this word now, or I can't, the crowds are too sensitive on this topic now. But the best comedians are the ones that have kind of changed with that and have embraced it, and
Always
embraced
moving.
the fact that words will change. And I think that's like kind of similar to value, like cultural values as well.
Yeah, I just don't want to calcify, I don't want to end up stuck looking backwards at a time that was, instead of appreciating everything that the world is now and still could be.
I don't think you will, Nick. I mean that sincerely. I don't think you will.
Well, we might.
I will, though.
We might circle back to that in today's discussion. But in the meantime, the music's playing. So, welcome to Deep Thought, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It feels like a while for me and Mike. It'll probably feel about the same amount of time for everyone else listening. But this is a podcast in which we discuss issues of the day through the eyes of the night. We're Batman.
Nice.
Sitting through the internet with me, my friend, Michael.
Yo.
And I'm Nick. Hey, thanks for being here.
Hey. Big app today, Nick. I gotta say.
Oh, you've got some things lined up?
Oh, boy, do I have some things lined up.
I've got some things lined up, so man, we shouldn't fuck around. Rattle them off. Tell me what's on the agenda here. I'll tell you what I got on my agenda, and we can work out what we're doing, because I got some cannons ready to fire.
Okay, so I'm not going to tell you what I've got, but I've got something that you're going to want to hear, and the listeners are going to want to hear.
I got something that you're going to want to hear.
How's that for a trailer? And I honestly, I think I should lead with it. I think I should go first.
You want to go into this, and this is just. Can you give me a vague sense? Is this story time, or is this like news topic discussion?
This is not news topic. I mean, it is news, but it's not news topic.
Okay.
It's not topical in that sense.
It's really old news. It's from the 1700s.
It's old news. Yeah, I want to talk about the printing press. I just read a killer article.
I mean, God, we should talk Gutenberg sometime. There's a lot to enjoy.
Love the goots. Yeah, I assume we're going to solve the Israel-Palestine conflict at some point, but
yeah, not today.
We'll save that to the end.
Sure.
Be a little teaser, and stay tuned for the solution.
For a solution to the Middle Eastern conflict. Fuck
Clickbait. Do you want to rattle off whatever?
Yeah, I got a couple of myths. I went traveling a couple of weekends ago, so I got one little story moment from some travels, and then I thought that we could talk about some AI stuff as a bit of a topic thing, because there's developments in AI, and I thought, why don't we touch base with some of those? But if you've got something,
just a real classic Nick dish, that isn't it? I went on a hike and I wanted to talk about robots.
Yeah, I mean that's the Shadle promise.
Nick 101. Yeah.
So if that's where we're sat, please fire away.
All right. Well, so we're in Phuoc right now. Lauren and I been saying. So we last time I spoke to you, we were in Cambodia.
Yeah.
And we went back to Vietnam after that, because the Vietnam's reopened the 3-month visa, blah, 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 not important. We're back in Vietnam, essentially. So this time we were doing the south of Vietnam. And we went
I feel like you can never really escape Nam. Like it's sort of stuck with you in your mind. And maybe for years to come, you'll have sort of flashbacks to your time here.
I don't want to go there. I will say though, I did have a bit of a PTSD moment, I guess, but because we're coming back to Vietnam, we know the language and we know the currency. It's the first country that we've actually been back to. We spent a month here a few months ago, and so we're going through customs, and there's like a little bit of cockiness that creeps in. You're like, okay, yeah. There's that unfamiliarity that's gone. I'm like, this is like my second home at this point. The homies are over there. I know a little language.
Yeah, game recognizes game. You walk down the street, they're looking at you, you're looking at them. You're like, we know what's going on here.
100%, Nick. So I'm going through customs, and the customs, usually you'll learn a few words on the plane. You learn thank you, you learn please, you learn excuse me, you learn I'm sorry for stealing the apple. And I'm kind of going in my head, I'm like, okay, I know the word for thank you, the phrase. So I'm just going to hit the customs guy with a thank you right off the bat, try and, just to get in the swing of things again. Mm-hmm. So the guy takes my passport or whatever, and I go very confidently, Gumga. So I say Gumga to him, which, I've been practicing in my head as thank you. And then, I meet up with Lauren again, and I said, I hit the customs guy right out the gate with a thank you. Oh. I said Kumga to him, and he gave me a weird look, and she said, that's because you said chicken rice. So he gave me back my passport, and I said chicken rice, my man.
Okay, so and I to draw this full circle, what is thank you?
Gamon.
You were nowhere close. You were way off. No. You were streets away.
But I like the idea that this guy's had famously a very stern job.
Yeah.
And I just said, gave him a wink. Chicken rice, my man. Thank you.
Michael.
And he's just gone, all right. Yeah. Well, I think hopefully I made his day. He's like, weird white guy just said chicken rice to me.
He will have told people. So he has gained something from that. You can be sure. But man,
I hope so.
Next,
that's pretty good, isn't it?
Third time back into Vietnam, maybe he'll still be on the desk, and you can
double down.
Next time.
Double down.
Double down. Go back.
Just double down. That's a chicken fried rice. I just keep adding up. Anyway, that's not the story.
That's not the story?
No, it gets better, Nick.
Wow.
So we come to Saigon,
Okay.
also known as Ho Chi Minh City. I like saying Saigon because it's a little bit more romantic.
Is it outdated? Like, did they? Is it like
I think
calling Thailand
in the
Siam, or is it not?
I don't know
It's like
about that. I
still,
haven't.
it's still like in
haven't done the
use.
legwork.
Okay,
Don't
so
know.
it could be
Who
offensive.
cares? They still use Saigon everywhere.
Okay,
as you
so
get off
it's
the
still in
airport,
use.
it's cool. The airport symbol is the code is SGN still.
Okay.
Anyway, so we go to Saigon, and we heard a few things about Saigon. That's it's a bit too busy, blah blah blah. We're a bit afraid of the busyness, the hustle and bustle. We don't want that. But 4 days, we fall in love with Saigon, and so Lauren and I get dressed. We're going out for a lovely dinner, and I really got to start with the ending here. And this is the news. Asked her to marry me, my boy.
Oh shit!
I'm engaged.
Congratulations! Oh my gosh!
Yeah, dude.
Wow,
Yeah.
I want you were glowing. I thought there's something different about this guy.
Lack of sleep.
Um,
Yeah, dude. So
what?
we're engaged now.
How? Why? And where?
Yeah. So this is why I wanted to. I'll try to condense it down. But essentially, I've been thinking about asking Lauren to marry me. We've been traveling for 4 months, and I had a vague idea that I was going to ask her on this trip, but wanted to see how the trip goes first because it can get a little rocky.
Sorry, you just pausing there. You had a sense even before leaving Australia that maybe there was an opportunity here.
A vague idea. I'll see how the trip goes. If we don't tear each other apart,
Yeah.
I'll pull the trigger.
Oh, okay.
So we get to Cambodia, and all this time on our travels, I've been looking vaguely at like independent jewelers. I know like Lauren would want something ethically made. There's also these other all these parameters, all these obstacles that you're kind of fighting with. I don't necessarily want to get like a diamond that she has to carry around with her in her bag and stuff. I want to get something that's like ethically made.
Yeah.
Like a ring I'm talking about. I don't know if I said it. Talking about
No,
a ring.
I think we're following.
So I found this one jeweler in Siem Reap who they actually started by making they're melting bullets into jewelry. So they're melting it down and turning it into jewelry. It's called ammo. And lovely jeweler. They employ all women. It's like it's above board, So I got a ring made in Siem Reap on the last day. So I'm making excuses.
Yeah,
to
ducking
leave
away.
the house.
Yeah.
Lauren's getting suspicious that I'm having an affair with a 14-year-old Cambodian woman. I'm like saying I'm literally saying things like, I think I just need some alone time, and then leaving.
God, that's a gamble, isn't it? Because some of that language, if you lay it on too thick, all of a sudden you're not proposing to anyone. I just don't want to be around you anymore. I just need time apart. I just want to go.
Well, I was running out
from
of
here.
excuses. I was running out of excuses. There's only so many times you can say I need to go out and buy some apples. That's the second time I brought up apples.
I have terrible diarrhea and I don't want to ruin this bathroom, so I'm just going to go out and use a public toilet.
Yeah. Anyway, so I got this ring made, and I'm going back and I'm all these other things like trying to get her ring size. I was going to steal a ring.
How do you know?
It's hard, man. It's hard. And I'm also doing this research while she's in close proximity to me.
Yeah.
There's a few moments where she's seeing the screen, and I'm like kind of shutting my laptop shut. So it's getting a little suspect. So I got this ring made. Then on the last day that we're leaving, I get a text from the jeweler saying it's ready. I'm like, thank fuck, because I'm leaving tomorrow.
So had they promised it would be done in time, or did you just take a gamble?
Took a gamble, baby. Took a gamble.
Shit.
I thought, worst case scenario, they could maybe mail it out to me. I don't know. But yeah, got it made. Picked it up on the last day. Then, I'm just kind of waiting for. So we arrive in Saigon. I've got the ring in my pocket. I put it in my jacket. I put it in my jacket sleeve, rolled it up real tight, put it in the bottom of my suitcase, kind of freaking out because I'm like, I don't know if, it's going to get the customs guy are going to pull it out and say, what's that? I'm going to have to explain it, blah, blah, blah. She's not like a really big, she doesn't want a big show. I knew that. So like I had to do it like an opportune moment and not like in front of a crowd or whatever. So we went to Saigon and, you know, I'm carrying it around for a few days and we're really loving it. We're having a good time. And then one night also I'm kind of keeping it on my person in the hopes that, well, not in the hopes, but like seeing if there is like a moment where it feels right.
Yeah.
Which is a very stressful thing.
I was going to say that has to be like 25% of your brain function at all times is consciously thinking boxes in pocket. Yeah. No, it's still there. It's okay.
Yeah. And so one night we just had a lovely day. We're like, let's go, you know, we're kind of doing things on the cheap here most nights. And we thought, you know, let's have a bit of a nicer dinner. Let's go to a rooftop bar, have a drink. So I've got the thing on me and there's one rooftop bar in my research that I was like, this place looks beautiful and I feel like this is the spot. So we get there and there's like a giant roller door closed in front of it. And there's no explanation. It says it's open on Google, but the lights aren't on. No one's home.
It's not happening. Yeah.
So I messaged them on Google. I messaged the business on Google. Anyway, in that time, we go across the street to another rooftop bar, it's kind of nice, but like, I don't know. That one. It's no vibe. There's like two guys behind. They're smoking. It just kind of feels like a sports bar. So we go to the terrace, and there's no one on the terrace, and we're kind of looking at the Saigon skyline, and I'm thinking, okay, but there's no music playing. There's no one up there, and there's barely any furniture set up. So I'm kind of thinking maybe this could be the moment. We start talking, and I decide that, you know, I reckon this might be the moment. But at this point, the ring's not on my person; it's on my little, what do you call it? Satchel, bum bag
Your
thing.
Fanny pack.
Strapped. Fanny pack. So I go downstairs to the bathroom and I put the ring in my pocket and I think I'm going to play on our phone because there's no music playing. I'm going to play on my phone one of our songs and, you know, it's nighttime, beautiful skyline, and I'm going to do it right there while there's no one there. So I get the phone, I come back, ring's in my pocket, come back upstairs, put the phone on the table and I open Spotify. Lauren's just on her phone at this point. And I go to play one of our songs and Cleaner comes up to sweep. At that precise moment, he comes up and he's just sweeping. He's not barely even sweeping. He's just kind of looking like he's trying to look like he's working, but he's not working. I'm like, you're really messing up my vibe here, my man. So anyway, he sticks around too long that the moment's passed, and I'm like, it's off. And I actually put the ring back from my pocket into my satchel, and Lauren was just on her phone this whole time, and she was like, "What's that?" And I had actually pulled out some cigarettes at the time. Because I was stressed.
Yeah.
You know, and not because I have an addiction.
No. For stress reasons, yeah.
So I put the ring back in the satchel and took cigarettes out. And she said, "What's that?" And I was like, "Shit, she's found it." But she was talking about the cigarettes.
Yeah.
Anyway, trying to cut this down. We go to dinner. We just go to get pad thai, and we have some prawns, whatever. And we think, I got a message back from the first rooftop bar saying they're open. So like, let's go. You know, we came all this way. We'll go back there for a drink. So we go up there. The owner lets us in. There's another couple there, but it's a beautiful terrace. It's kind of nicely lit with like fairy lights. Same view of the skyline. It's nice. It's really nice. It's cute. They're playing like cute music. So in my head, it was off. It was off at this point.
Yeah.
But then we start talking, Lauren and I. We start talking about our future together. We start talking about, you know, how excited we are about, you know, kids and, you know, settling down and all that stuff. You know, we're talking about that in the context of our trip.
Yeah.
And it just felt like the moment.
Here we go.
It felt organic.
Yeah.
So I go, this is it in my head. And as we're talking about this conversation, talking about our love for each other, how much fun we're having, our future together, I pop the ring out and I get down on one knee, and her face contorts like I've never seen it contort in my life. And she initially, I had to convince her that it was real. I mean, it's me that we're talking
Of
about
course.
here.
Yeah. I would have assumed that you had to ask at least 5 to 6 times before she was convinced it was a real offer.
Well, I got down on one knee and I said, will you marry me? She was like, is this real? And I said, I've never been more serious in my life. And then she didn't really say yes. She just cried. And I was like, I kind of need an answer here, Toots. I was like, hey.
Hey, I need an answer here, Toots.
She eventually let out like a real, just like a kind of a squeal.
Uh-huh.
And then because I hadn't planned this to happen, I'm like, we've got to get some champagne to celebrate.
Yeah.
So I go up to the girl behind the bar. I'm like, can we get 2 glasses of champagne? She's like, what's champagne? I'm like, anything sparkling?
Bubbles?
She's like, I have no idea. And I was like, I don't want to lose the moment. So I'm just like, give us 2 of that. And I just picked something, and it was gin gimlets or whatever. So they bring off these like weird looking drinks to our table, and we clinked with that. And the rest is history, I guess.
Oh, man.
I'm
And
engaged
the ring,
boy.
The ring, did it fit? Did she like it?
The ring fit. It's maybe a slightly too big. It's not. Our plan is to kind of maybe upgrade the ring.
Yeah, people do that.
It's still valuable. It's still valuable, but like especially in Asia as well, you don't know
exactly
if
what
you're
you've
going to
got.
get a fake diamond or whatever, and what's something that she can like treasure, but like it's not gonna destroy her if it gets lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel kind of grown up now, I gotta say.
Well, congratulations, man. I'm really happy for you. That's really romantic. I'm excited that it did work out after what were probably some stressful days of wondering and doubting and got the emotional turmoil. I'm really happy for you, and you do. It seems like you're taller and older and like more of like an adult now, like just visibly.
Yeah, my balls have dropped a few inches, which is about time.
Finally.
But this happened. By the way, this happened like just before we released the last one.
Oh.
So I've been kind of wanting
sitting on it for weeks.
I've been sitting on it, and tell me if this is not wife material. Obviously you want to do the social media thing, but Lauren suggested, no, you got to drop it on the pod first.
So you have deliberately withheld this news for podcast benefit. What a woman. What a woman. You've done well, Michael. Thank you, Lauren.
I mean,
congratulations
if this
to you
is this is, if nothing else, good content. And that's what I was thinking the whole time.
Yeah. What should I do to demonstrate my commitment to my partner? Well, I'd really love to release a podcast about it. So, maybe I'll propose.
So, we've told like friends and family. But we haven't told.
You didn't tell me.
Well, Nick, I wanted to see the look on your face.
I get it. I get it. I'd do the same thing.
I did think about it, but the missus, she insisted.
Yeah, good call. I'm real happy for you both. That's very exciting. Are you going to have the wedding over there? Do I need to look at flights because it's expensive? I probably can't make it.
Well, I think the initial discussions are a few ideas have been floating around, and I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but New Zealand was definitely on the menu. Yeah. Well, wow. Lauren's got some family there, and it's pretty. From what I hear, you've got a mountain or two.
Yeah. I've heard good things.
Yeah, but we'll see how we go.
Well, that's very exciting. I'm very happy for you both. You look happy. I'm stoked for you. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So
Now, try. Hey, what do you tell me about your hike?
so went for a hike in Taranaki, which is sort of central western North Island. We went out for a road trip. Had some trouble with the ferries, getting over and back, delayed both times, bit of a pain. Went out there specifically to go walk up a mountain, like around a national park, and weather was terrible and raining. And then we decided to go up anyway, and it was completely abandoned. And then we went hiking and we got caught in a snowstorm, which I sent you some photos of. Very pretty. But
Yeah.
here's the story that I want to really just emphasize as perhaps the main takeaway from this trip. And I think
Okay.
coming off the back of your big story, you'll understand that I have to bring my narrative A game here in order to even have a chance of following up your big news. So
Okay.
just picture this. We've had a sort of unexpectedly magical hike up in the mountain. We ended up at the top of this sort of lookout area and caught in the snow. It's magical. It's like we're having snowball fights. Like I've never really been in like a snowstorm before. We built a little snowman, like having a lovely time. No one else around, but enjoying it. We'd been sent up that path by like a ranger in a hut up there, and we we were like, oh, are there any sort of hazards? Like is it safe for us to go out and about because the weather's a bit wild? And she was like, oh yeah, head up that way, go have a look. And so we wandered off for maybe 45 minutes to an hour up this track and came back down again and went back to the hut to sort of be like, hey, we're safe, we're back. And there's just this sign on the door saying, closed early, gone home. So she'd set us up into a snowstorm up a mountain and then be like,
It's a
well,
bit too
coffee
stormy.
shop closes at 3, so I might just hightail it and assume
enough.
they'll be fine.
Yeah.
So then we had this sort of like nice experience, and then on the way back there was this garden that was just listed off the side of the road. We're like, oh, that sounds nice. Maybe we'll go have a wander around the garden. And we've pulled up in this car park, and again there's like no one else there because it's been a horrible weekend of weather. No one else is trying to get out and about. So we park up in the car park and we go back. It's this sort of beautiful thing with lots of manicured beds, and we go for a wander, and it's quite pretty. Turn around, it's sort of like end of the afternoon. Like we've done a bit of walking, getting on with the day. Come back into the car park, and there is another camper van there now. There's one other car with a camper van, and as we walk out towards our car, we look at this camper van, and it is completely transparent windows, and there's two people just absolutely fucking each other's brains out in the car park.
Yes, dude. Hell yeah.
Just legs in the air, like no curtains up, just straight, just like
Fuck yeah.
things moving.
Is it
whole
rocking?
thing's shaking.
Is it rocking?
Like it's a cliche, but
It's like National Lampoon.
this guy
kind
is
of
going
style.
to town with absolutely no care in the world who's or what is around.
yeah.
Because to be honest, there was no one else around except us, and
Yeah.
it was
Now,
just,
are we talking Mish? Are we talking doggy? What are we talking? Let's get graphic here.
I mean, due to the height of the caravan, all I could really see was legs up in the air and him behind her. But I don't know exactly what sort of positioning was going there on the bed. But
Okay. And what age are we talking?
youngish, yeah.
Approximately.
Well, he was young. I couldn't see her. But
Okay.
they're very...
Hopefully she was not younger.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was, adults and consensual, yes.
Okay.
I don't think there was any sort of, like, kidnapping involved or anything like that.
I think I'm just saying that because that would, dramatically elevate your story.
I mean, I thought it was up there already, but if you're saying it needs to, like a few
No.
notes.
I'm still enthralled.
Yeah. And so we went back into our car and we're like, and then we drove away.
That's amazing. I've always wanted to kind of witness a scene like that. I got to say.
Yeah, it was memorable. It was memorable, and I admired it. I was like,
Yeah.
good for you. Living life to the fullest.
do you ever have that thing of like, you and Casey have been together for a while. When you see something like that, and it's obviously like quite, that's a passionate, maybe early relationship thing to do. Do you
Possibly,
ever have
yeah.
that feeling of like when you see like that sort of passion and go, oh, I don't know. That just, and then
where did that go?
you both make excuses. You both make
Sure.
excuses as to like, oh, it's just too cold for that. It's
Too
like
cold.
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we got up so early, like I just don't have that kind of energy. Yeah.
No, we
No.
have
I mean,
sex.
the car seats don't go back that far. We couldn't do that there. Not in our vehicle.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's great. You witnessed a wild fucking, which is everyone's dream.
A wild fucking. Yeah.
Did you record or you didn't?
No.
For the Patreon.
No, I mean I find heterosexual sex kind of revolting, just intrinsically. Not something that really.
Same.
I'm not like, let's grab my phone out.
No, me neither.
Alrighty, well, on slightly more serious note, I don't want this to feel weighed down or burden, the light, exciting news of this podcast.
But you're going to buy us down.
But here we go.
Yeah.
Death. It comes for us. No.
Right.
So AI, we've been talking about this on and off for a few years here, and I want to just revisit this briefly because we're seeing some developments here in terms of the personalities and the voices and different iterations of this now beyond like language models and text. We're getting close to a place where the Her idea, the Spike Jonze film of this like disembodied AI voice in your pocket who's always in your ear, always around, it is looking more and more within reach. And so I just wanted to touch on a couple of AI developments here and just get your vibes on it. The first one here is developments in terms of ChatGPT models. So there was an article here written by Casey Newton talking about the development of ChatGPT's surprisingly human voice and this idea that we're on the precipice now of seeing or like synthetic beings or interacting with synthetic beings in a very tangible way. So just recently, OpenAI announced latest updates for ChatGPT. One feature lets you interact with the large language model via voice. Another lets you upload images and ask questions about them. So now it's got this sort of much more powerful interaction model. But it's adding a voice to ChatGPT, which gives it almost more of a sense of personality now, where previously you were interacting with this interface like a text box. And now it's like a Siri model where all of a sudden hearing something back and hearing the very natural language from something like that coming back adds a humanness that has perhaps been missing from some of this other stuff. So it's like earnest, cheery, kind of tireless voices that are now going to be in your phone and now easily accessible, which brings us like really close to this, like the outlines or the shape of this Her thing, this like empathetic companion that people fall in love with. And I take it that these comparisons to Her are sort of cliche when discussing AI and Silicon Valley now, but it's no longer like a distant sci-fi dream. It seems like it's just around the corner. So Casey Newton in this column says that he asked the speaking version of ChatGPT to give him a pep talk so that he could hit his deadline because he was running behind schedule. And the model did its best to like gas him up and like get him in the mood, which is like this sort of emotional step forward now where you can have someone speak you these kind of interactions that perhaps on text wouldn't have felt as meaningful. So I wonder what your feelings here are about perhaps this threshold we're about to cross where AI becomes more human and more personable.
Yeah, well, the first thing is I feel like there is a lot of, especially recently, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot more loneliness in the world. And I wonder if this AI, as much as we might have cautions or suspicions about it, I wonder if it can feel a very real gap in society. I think people are talking to each other less. I think that I heard a statistic the other day that said that in the 1960s, men above the age of 40 could say that they had three very close male friends, and now that's dropped to like 20% or something like that. So I do wonder if AI can actually serve a very real and important purpose here in providing people with companionship.
It's
The other
interesting that
thought
you
that I had
touch
with
on
it,
that. Sorry, just to piggyback that because you set me up perfectly. Was one of the examples here that this author Casey Newton wrote about was when he was early in the discussion of this AI stuff. A trans teenager had messaged him to say that they were using ChatGPT to get daily affirmations about identity issues, giving like a warm and kindly voice to reaffirm things that they weren't getting in their own life. So I think you're 100% on the money there. People will use this as a real, I mean, crutch sort of has negative connotations, but like as a stopgap where it's missing in their lives.
yeah, I could see that. Like, if you had a father that left, you didn't have a father figure in your role, maybe you can have that father figure voice that you
Yeah.
needed in your life, and psychologically, it could be very beneficial. The other thought that I had with this is kind of circling back to what we were saying at the start of the pod about change and about hoping to be open-minded as we get older. And the thing about open-mindedness as you get older is that you can think of yourself as, you can think of yourself as open-minded, and you can think, if I have a gay son, I'm going to accept them and encourage them and be, a very sympathetic and loving parent to that child. That's all well and good to say in this day and age. But think about our parents. For our parents' generation, when they were having kids, trans wasn't even in the conversation.
Yeah.
It wasn't even on their radar. So to be presented with that as an option, it's like, well, I thought I was open-minded, but that was the limit to that was gay. But now trans, I'm like, now I have to get my head around that. And what I do think with our generation, when we have kids, is that that open-mindedness needs to extend beyond the things that we can imagine or think up in
Today.
our current society. And I do wonder if AI will be a part of that. We'll have kids by the time, if we had kids today, say, and then, they get to 16 in the year, where's my
39.
maths? 2040, all right? Let's
Yeah.
say we both have 16-year-old children in the year 2040, and then your daughter says, I've got a boyfriend, and it's an AI. And I wonder if our open-mindedness, if we are open-minded at that point, will extend to, your child has a digital partner.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Because it's funny how intrinsically my brain was like, well, that's not healthy. my first reaction of my brain was like, well, no, I mean, that's not a substitute for human connection. But who the fuck knows?
And then who the fuck knows? And then, from that, you can imagine with, the algorithm of today or the formula of today that there could potentially be some sort of prejudice against AI, and then maybe an AI community that wants their voice to be heard. These things can kind of trickle off each other potentially. Yeah. This is all hypothetical, but I just wonder what that is.
It does
that anomaly that we can't think.
It does make you wonder as well, how quickly society is changing, whether the pace of that change is going to be faster and faster, and whether at our age we'll be faced with an equivalent number of revolutionary shifts in our culture and lives and society and humanity, or whether we'll have more than our parents did. because the technology is moving faster, and whether we'll be better positioned to handle that because we have had more experience earlier, or whether it's just like this exponential thing where every generation is the same
Yes.
level of incompetent at handling a increasingly difficult or increasingly fast moving cultural development.
Yeah, well, technology and culture and society, they move parallel, but they move at very different paces. And I do think that society takes way longer to catch up with technology, and that's part of the real danger. That if technology is moving, and we're already seeing it, if technology is moving at an exponential rate, we are struggling to catch up with that, and we're struggling to keep up with it, and it's causing division, and it's I think that chasing of technology with our values and with our culture is a dangerous one at times.
Well, and it's also so geographically specific, right? Like
Specific, yeah.
it's the Western world and it's Silicon Valley who are making these kind of big technological developments. But how does that play in somewhere like Japan, where you have this interesting mix of like technological futurism in some respects, but like real antiquated like social
Tradition, yeah.
constructs, and you have the gosh, I forget the name of them, but there's a term for a sort of a Japanese incel, which is like this shut-in who lives at home in a depressive state for months on end, and doesn't work or study or do anything. But it's sort of like this studied phenomenon. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but that's obviously a
Is it
byproduct.
called hikomori?
Yeah, hikikomori. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for looking that up. But there's already evidence of that intersection between like technology and culture having side effects in present day, and you have to wonder whether the like economic imbalances geographically around the world and cultural differences, like you could look back to the Middle Eastern situation and wonder what is going to happen in a world where we're already witnessing like social media spread of false or misleading video and stuff from video games that's being used as ammunition in like a culture war between opposing sides. And if we're entering this phase where things aren't real and technology is evolving and getting away from us, I think the fact that it's not like a unified humanity is probably a detriment to the integration of that kind of technology, because it's not going to play out the same everywhere across the world. It's not going to be purchased and implemented the same across the world. And so I can only imagine that will sort of splinter things even further.
Yeah, you can imagine a world where there's certain countries, certain parts of the world that are rapidly accelerating and needing to interact with parts of the world that have either not embraced it to the same degree or just haven't been able to get there financially. You can imagine that disparity causing a lot of issues.
Well, we already see differences in terms of the way that the EU regulates technology and financial markets and that sort of thing when it comes to mandating things must have USB chargers. That's one of the reasons that Apple put a new USB-C port in their iPhones rather than the Lightning port. Like, they have certain expectations of regulation in business and technology. All those fucking cookie pop-ups, which is like, do you want to accept the cookies that come on every single fucking website? And you're like, reject. Like, all this shit is because they mandated they needed the user needed the control for that kind of thing. But that affects the entire world, because it's not just European Union citizens visiting websites. But that is in sharp contrast to the like American style of business development and of innovation, where it's sort of like everyone for themselves, not that much in the way of like government regulation, a very states-based authority and that sort of thing. And that's already cause this difference in culture, I think, between the two places, difference in expectations. And it seems like it'll only get worse.
Yeah, it's a very like I think the idea of bringing up children in in a world where there are so many unknowns and an ever growing list of unknowns is it needs to be a real conscious choice, I think.
Yeah. The other thing that came, so another AI sort of twist here is that Meta has announced personality-driven chatbots for use in their messaging apps like Messenger and WhatsApp, presumably. But celebrities like Snoop Dogg, Mr. Beast, Tom Brady, Paris Hilton, Kendall Jenner have signed up and lent their voices to this chatbot effort. So you can now like send a message to a robot that gives you Paris Hilton personality back. You know, like
Imagine.
celebrities. You don't have to imagine, Michael. You can experience it for yourself. But like,
Imagine just wanting that though.
well, yeah. I mean, at the same time, how many fucking millions of people would want to be able to message Taylor Swift, you know, on Messenger
Taylor
every day.
Smith.
Taylor
I
Smith's
love Taylor
a
Smith.
friend of mine from
Yeah.
around the corner. But like, we're already talking about actors and things scanning their likeness and giving their voice for future roles and that kind of thing. And now we're talking about personality mimicry here as well, where you could like speak to a synthetic version of someone you know. Like that's again getting close to this like her area where it's like, can I scan my personality up so that after I'm gone, my kids can interact with me and hear my voice again? Like, why do you need a substitute father figure if you can just have a digital imprint of your father tell you that he loves you? Like, we're verging very.
I wouldn't mind one of those as well. Actually.
we're verging very closely on what was science fiction now becoming science fact.
Yeah, I guess with all with all this change is the theme of the pod, isn't it?
Yeah.
With all this change, there are the initial knee-jerk response to it that we feel, you know, viscerally, and then there is all these other unintended or these byproducts that can actually be really beneficial. And I guess, yeah, part of our job as, I was going to say podcasters, but I mean just as humans of the world is to, yeah, I guess try and embrace it as much as we can.
Well,
and hope
it's
it doesn't
good.
kill us.
Yes, that's the big one that should underpin everything. Not wanting to die is still one of my sort of core traits. So if we can continue that, that'd be great. It's good that you teed up podcaster though, because here's my final AI bit of the of this sort of triptych of updates. Spotify is testing AI-powered podcast language translation, mimicking the podcaster's own voice. Did you see this, Michael?
No.
Okay. Spotify is testing out a way, this is in Variety, Spotify is testing out a way for podcasters to reach listeners in different languages using artificial intelligence technology that emulates the podcaster's own voice. So as part of the pilot, Spotify has worked with a select group of podcasters, including Dax Shepard and Monica Padman from Armchair Expert, The Ringer's Bill Simmons, a few others, to generate AI-powered voice translations in other languages, including Spanish, French, and German for a few episodes. So you record in English, AI goes away, feeds it through a computer, feeds it through your voice model, and gives you Dax Shepard speaking German back to you so that you can understand it in native language. So this is using OpenAI technology. Wow. This is the recently released voice generation stuff we were just talking about. But now it's like a voice translated episode from these creators. I'm going to send you through a link here and we can just play a little bit here of the audio as well. But you can have a listen and tell me what you think, because I think that's instructive.
I think this could be what we need to juice this puppy up, Nick. Take this podcast global.
finally we can have an international market.
When you say the word toxicity, how are you defining that? You're saying like toxic chemicals que introducimos en nuestras vidas, en nuestra piel, consumimos, inhalamos, tenemos a nuestro alrededor y que están en nuestros alimentos, etc.
I hate that guy. Oh, Lex
How
Friedman,
do you
get
think?
fucked.
O sea, a modo de consejo, ya que lo estamos platicando, a diario, ¿qué opinas sobre los problemas difíciles del mundo?
You don't have to be in show business, but what I've discovered is how fun it is to have the same trabajo y poder hablar de eso todo el tiempo.
Yeah, wow.
So the future of podcasting might be individual localized languages in the voice of the people who said it without them having to actually know or speak the other languages.
That is insane.
And
that's so wild.
Dax Shepard, I think, sounded a little bit not like Dax Shepard, but the others plausibly sounded like the people who are actually speaking, which is incredibly impressive technologically and somewhat spooky and like ethically confusing. Because if you can't, to me, it's like, well, I don't speak the language, so how do I know that it's accurately translated my words and intent into that other language, and I'm not accidentally saying like unintended things, you know, without my knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, we're using a lot of translation technology now, which has gotten incredible. Like I don't know if you've used the Google Translation app where you can use
Hold it
the
in front of
camera
someone?
and
Yeah.
you can hover it and it just it will show you the English text. But that English text, you know, we're in Vietnam and we'll be like, oh, this looks good. Hover the camera over, and it will be like chicken's
Chicken rice.
grandfather's liver rice, which
Yeah.
it could be that. It could be that in reality, but like there is clearly some not
there's a fuzzy
100% accurate translation going on there.
Yeah.
It's a bit clunky, but that's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that podcasting? I mean, if this takes off, it's going to make podcasting explode even more than it has.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that podcasting in 2003 or whatever, when it first started to get some juice?
Yeah, back when
Who would
the
have thought that
iPod
podcasting
was
would just
existing.
be massive? Do you remember the Ricky Gervais show?
Yeah.
You know, we both listened to. Like they started, and even they got out of it before podcasting.
Even got
They came into it first, and they got out before.
Remember they were sold as like audio
wild.
books. They weren't even like in an RSS
Yeah.
feed. It was like on the iTunes store, but it was
yeah.
different. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
crazy, man.
20 years now, I guess, since podcasting was a thing. And I mean, I think I was starting to listen to podcasts in year 10, which is like 2004, right? So like 20 years of it now. And I feel like I was a good 10 years ahead of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I can proudly like brag that I was onto that way, way early. And it has exploded in a way that I don't know that people would have expected even back then. I never even listened to the radio anymore.
But
Well, if you've enjoyed this, I am delighted that you are as delighted as I am by Michael and Lauren's exciting news. Congratulations again. Please feel free to reach out to them and send your best wishes in a variety of mechanisms. One of them, it could be an Instagram message. One of them could be on a Facebook page. One of them could be deepthought@gmail.com. One of them is just a snail mail message to Vietnam. You could also leave a podcast review and jump on the Spotify, give us 5 stars, jump on your Apple Podcasts, make people know how excited this episode made you. And tell others to listen too, because I'm sure they'd love to hear it, wouldn't you? It's a nice romantic story. What are you, a fucking asshole, you piece of shit? Sorry, I got a little bit aggressive. Just feeling very protective of Michael.
Yeah. Thank you, mate. I've also got another segment idea here,
Okay.
which I think you'll like.
Okay.
But maybe we can save it.
Save it? You don't want to try?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it has links, but let me. All right, I'll float it. I'll pitch it to you.
Okay.
But I was thinking of. Why was I thinking about this? I'm thinking about animals all the time, and I was thinking about how kids in kids' books we teach them animal sounds. We'll teach them that cats go meow and cows go moo. But cats don't say meow and cows don't really go moo. So my segment idea was that we try and work out what animal sounds are closest to the words that we associate with them making.
Okay. Or vice versa, what would the more onomatopoeic animal sound be?
Oh, that's good. We can improve it.
Improving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down.
So, I think cats saying meow is close, but they don't say meow.
Here's the first sort of hurdle that I'm running into, is that we know that internationally animal sounds are expressed differently. So like in Germany, a cat doesn't say meow, and in Japan, a cat doesn't say meow. They have different names, which all feels like they're all trying to circle the same kind of idea, right? And so my first thought is is that an English problem? And are there like other people that have done it better out there?
Sure.
But like
famously in Germany, cats go meow.
Yeah, it's much more throaty. It's much sort of back of the throat. It's a glottal kind of thing.
I can do Japan as well if you want.
I'm not sure that we should.
Meow.
Okay, actually not bad. Yeah. I feel like you're right that I've never heard a cat say meow, but I think it's also common for a cat for the word of a cat to be phrased as a mew. Okay. And I think mew is often pretty close to what a cat sounds like.
Meow.
Yeah.
You think it's a meow?
I think there is an M. I think I'd be pretty confident that a cat can make an M. And that's the other thing, is that animals make different noises.
That's true. I think the most ridiculous one.
There's a real cat noise.
Sure.
So
I mean, you know what? Let's talk about the ones that are just so out of left field. Pigs do not say oink. I've never heard a pig.
I think that's a delivery problem. I think that it's been expressed on paper differently to the expectation about how you would say oink when recreating the noise. Because I think it's got to be a bit more like oink, oink, oink. Like you've got to. It's a delivery problem.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm impressed with how nasal you got with that. How
I commit, Michael.
I've never seen anything like it. Yeah. What else have we got? We got maybe a snake. Snake is famously say.
Well, that's a very good call. I don't think I've ever heard a snake make a noise at all. That's a very interesting place to go, because I can't think of them making mouth noises. The only noise I think of with a snake is a rattlesnake tail, or maybe a slithering away. But they don't make. Do they say things? Do they have a voice box?
In the Book of Genesis, they say things.
Did you try again? Sorry, my AI is interrupting.
Is your AI a man?
Yeah. Well, I don't want a woman's advice.
I love it. Yeah, you can't ask a woman to give you directions.
What? Oh, I didn't say that. Snake.
I don't know if this has legs. No pun intended.
Well, yeah. What else? What else we got? Donkey. Hee-haw.
Eeyore. That's not bad, actually.
It's not bad.
Hee-haw.
Yeah. I heard it.
That's not bad. Not bad.
What about a whale? There's the sort of the whale song trope.
I don't think we have a. No, that's nothing. I don't think we have a sound for the whales. It's like there's like high profile animals, and they're usually barnyard animals.
You know what I think is way off. cheep or chirp for a bird. I don't think that you're anywhere close. Most birds are not saying cheep or chirp. I think that's nowhere near. That's an
totally
embarrassment.
agree. And that's embarrassing. It's also quite prolific in terms of the vernacular. Like chirping. Chirping is its own word. It's
Tweet.
not just It's not. You wouldn't say eoing, but you
Yeah.
say chirping for.
Yeah.
Or tweeting.
Yeah.
Tweet.
Yeah.
Tweet. I guess that might be something.
I think the problem here is there's such a diversity of birds that trying to like generalize any kind of noise when there's so many different types is a fool's errand. Why do we even bother?
Yes. Yeah, imagine talking to an eagle and going, "Oh, yeah, so
Yeah,
you've been
cheep,
chirping
cheep,
a lot
cheep,
lately."
cheep.
And it's like
Are
chirping.
you kidding me? You
Chirping?
fucking racist.
You think that's a chirp? Do you think that's a chirp?
Yeah. Yeah. We've been putting our foot in it all this time, and they've been too polite to let us know.
I really redlined on that eagle scream.
That's okay.
Sorry
That's
about
okay.
that.
Yeah, we've maxed out.
You know what's interesting? Fish don't have one. Well, I guess they don't really make noises.
That's probably the same reason. And yet snake has a ostensible noise.
Snakes are a lot of, what is it, onomatopoeia? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, well, yeah, we are.
Slither. No animal has onomatopoeia down pat than a snake. Like a slithering snake. I wonder if it is biblical though. If it has something to do with it.
Well, I don't know that there's an onomatopoeia in terms of snake.
Well, I mean, it's like a snake.
It's got a sibilant kind of
Snakes.
sound, which is what you're getting at. Yeah.
But like the noun for the animal and the main verb of the animal, like a slithering snake, and then that we've said that snakes go. There's something to that.
I mean, to me that sounds incredibly tenuous, but I'm happy not to point that out and for you to just make that point.
You know what I would really love if someone actually stayed to the end. Because they heard us say at the start that we were going to say it, solve
the Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
And then we just
That is
talked
just
about
Michael
animal sounds.
making eagle noises.
Psych. We have no answers.
Yeah. This was a real episode of highs and lows.